Hey everyone, welcome back to Brown Coat Nerd. Today we're going to look at the Casio AQ-S820W. This is the OD green version with negative display, so specifically the 3BV. The other two versions both have a positive display. That is the black 1AV and the flat dark earth, or they call it khaki, I believe, and that is the 5AV. It's also worth pointing out that the OD green version, instead of having a black face, it actually has a really dark, it's kind of hard to tell here, really dark brown face, almost like a chocolate. So I really like that on kind of these military style watches. Casio's done it in the past. Really nice little touch. I didn't realize that from the photos because it looked black in the photos, and then it showed up and I'm like, sweet. Even better. So this came out not too long ago. I've been kind of watching it. It's kind of nice to finally get a Casio, like, as it's a new model coming out as a new collector, so that was fun. I've been buying a lot of these analog digital Casios lately. I've kind of decided that's the style I enjoy, I guess. And this is kind of one of the cheaper ones at $55. Now, there's a lot of things on this watch that people are kind of frustrated that Casio didn't include, myself included. But at the same time, like, I understand why Casio did it. They wanted a cheaper analog digital watch, and to keep that price point down, they're going to have to, kind of cut some corners in some places. So real quick, the basics of this, what it features. We do have a world timer on here, a countdown timer, stopwatch. We have 5 alarms. It does have an LED light. Now, the downside of this, which some people might prefer and other people might not enjoy, the LED light only lights up the LCD display. It's behind the LCD display. So it's not actually lighting up the clock face. And from my limited experience, depending on like what color the arms are, what color the face is, those LED lights sometimes don't do a whole lot for the actual clock face. So it is, in that aspect, nice that it's lighting up the LCD display. However, that means if you're going to be using it in low light, you're going to want to make sure that your LCD display is set to the time and not like the day of the week or the date. Not a huge deal, but just something to keep in mind. And then I've also got other ones that have an LED light on the analog face, and because of the color of the hands and the face, it lights up very well and there's no issue. So keep that in mind. That might be something that bothers you. It does have the tough solar, which is very nice. So we've got a little solar panel behind the face here. Keeps the battery charged. Watches without the tough solar, at least in the Casio line, like the best life expectancy I see that Casio lists them at is 10 years. Typically they do a little better. And from what I've seen, people that have these tough solar watches and don't allow the battery to constantly drain and die, as long as you're keeping it in a room with a decent amount of ambient light, you don't even need to put it in direct sunlight, it's going to keep charged just fine. And as long as you do that, it looks like they can last upwards of 20 plus years. So do like that. Little less hassle for me to deal with if I haven't lost the watch in 20 years. One of the downsides I feel is the crystal of this watch is just an acrylic. It's not a mineral or sapphire, which I wouldn't expect sapphire on something like this. Once again, they're trying to keep the cost down, but it's such a freaking big crystal, and this bezel here, it's not really raised up. So it doesn't have much protection. Maybe someone will make some bull bars or something for this. This actually might kind of look cool with that. But I have a feeling that crystal is going to be getting scratched up quite a bit. So that's one downside. Once again, cost effectiveness, I understand. It is water resistant to 100 meters. It's got an hourly chime, which I think is kind of nice if you want an analog watch, but you still want hourly reminders. You do have that option. You can turn that on or off. It does have lume. Not a lot of lume, but some lume. And it's Casio lume, so it's not the greatest. Hopefully, I'll turn the lights off here towards the end of the video, and we'll see if we can get that to show up if it's not too bright outside. The module number they're using in this is 5745, if I'm reading my handwriting correctly. Like I said, I got this for $55 off of Amazon. Now, for $55, getting an analog digital like this with the features it has, which, it does have quite a few features, I am pretty happy with. However, I really like this watch. My other analog digitals, which I did not grab out here, probably should have done that, they're kind of a little more on the classy side of things. I do have one that's kind of the military style, very much like this. But even then, it doesn't look like it's necessarily very rugged. This is, I wouldn't say looks like a G-Shock, but it's kind of like some of the almost faux G-Shocks that Casio's been putting out with these screws here. And this is another thing that bugs me. Fake screws. I've been trying to do my watch reviews in the order that I've been purchasing them, so you have not got to see me go on a fake screw rant yet. This review I want to get out there because there's not really a whole lot yet on these watches, so skipping the order a little bit. So you will be seeing a fake screw rant from me in a future review, at least one. However, this one we only have the 2 fake screws, and they do make up for it by giving us 4 real ones, or at least ones that look more real than those things. But other than that, I really like this watch. Therefore, I wish it had a mineral face. I wish it had multi-band 6. I wish the light was an auto light. And Casio, I understand I'm going to have to pay for those. And with this style of analog digital, I will. Please come out with a nicer version that looks like this. The other, like I was saying, the other analog digital watches that Casio has, and once again, maybe I'm missing some. And I'm not talking about like the G-Shocks, but like the kind of more, I really wish I would have grabbed them. Kind of the more classy looking ones. This isn't really classy looking, but the face kind of is. But I like the body of it. Just kind of that more rugged style on there. So I do wish they threw some more features in here. I think they should offer this as is, as a budget-friendly watch. But give us a more expensive one too. It's not just me. I think we all want that. So let's take a closer look here. There is no second hand, which, that's fine. I can live with that. Our digital display, if I can get it in camera here, is your typical Casio negative display. In that it might look cool, but functionality-wise, it kind of sucks. So here you can see it says Monday. We will always have the seconds counting down in the right section of that screen. We can also, whoops, I wasn't trying to get there yet. So this is kind of your 3 basic home screen options. You can have it display the day of the week. Here we have the date and then the time. I'm trying to see here. I've already filmed this video once when I was rewatching it, which is something I rarely do. I will speak for the durability of this watch. It had a huge streak of white paint on the corner here, and I clearly must have hit like the edge of a door walking around the house. Didn't realize it. It scraped off. I don't see any scratches in that acrylic crystal yet. And I'm kind of surprised by that. Because like I said, it's so big. But yeah, so this body seems to be decently durable. But we do have those options for the LCD display. Some of the features we have here. We can see how the battery charge is doing. As we can see there, it is at high. Real quick on that. Again, I don't leave these in direct sunlight. I've got kind of like a little end table in our living room that's kind of off to the side. There's a lot of windows in our living room. However, with the trees we have and the overhang, we don't get any direct sunlight, at least this time of year. I guess I've never really paid attention to it until I got the Tough Solar watches. So I just put them on that end table, that's kind of off to the side. It's not right in front of the window. It's got a pretty good shot to the window, but once again, no direct sunlight. And it does, some of these that came to me at a medium charge, it did take them a while to get to the high charge, but they've stayed there, and it's just fine with that little bit of ambient light. I'm sure at night, too, when I'm turning on different lights in the house, it's getting a little bit of charge from that as well. Now, obviously, I am going outside with some of these, like whenever I was walking the dog, especially when I first get one, I always make sure I'm wearing that one when I'm going on a walk with the dog. I've got a lazy Chihuahua, so these are not long walks, but just with that little extra boost, they are able to charge up. And keep in mind, whenever I'm going out walking the dog, I've gotten to the point where I can like choose whatever freaking watch I want, so I'm not always wearing the solar ones. What I'm trying to say here, I'm sorry, very long-winded, is it's easy to keep these charged. Just simple ambient light. It might take them a while to go from like medium to high. I haven't had one at a low charge. I don't know if that takes longer, like to get to medium or whatever. But charging these is simple. They do sell like little solar plug-in light chargers off of Amazon. They're fairly cheap. I think they're like $15. I was kind of tempted to get one, but then I was like, I don't need it though. As long as I'm patient, that charge is eventually going to get up there. I recently got a G-Shock Square that is tough solar. That one did take quite a while to go from medium to high, but I think it just has a higher overall capacity of battery. But once again, without long-term direct sunlight or anything, it got to high and it stayed there ever since. Well, that one jumped around a little bit. We'll save that for that review. So it's easy to charge these. It's not terribly difficult. And we do have that option to see where our charge is at. Then we have our world time. Right now it is set on London. And this is one of the neat features I noticed. Let's see here, it says 1:22 a.m. It does have a PM marker, but not an AM marker. So just keep that in mind. I was watching Greg Anderson, the Good Timekeeper, wonderful YouTube channel. If you're one of my regular, viewers, and you're just kind of getting exposed to all these watches with me, sorry I bumped the camera. He is a great resource. Whenever I get a watch and I find out he has a video on that watch, I'm always very happy. He shows all kinds of little tricks that aren't even in the owner's manual, I don't think. Things like how to align the arms, so how to align the hands, forgive me. So he's a great resource. Those of you that are already into watches are like, well, yeah, duh, I'm sure. And there's tons of other great channels too. But to my normal viewers, he is kind of like the forgotten weapons of the watch world. So he did show a feature on here that I thought was really neat. So let's say you're constantly traveling between Chicago and London. Now you can have the London time displayed poorly and that negative display down there. But let's say you want to switch it to the actual watch. You hit both of the top pushers at the same time. And now you've kind of swapped places. Now Chicago time is in the LCD display there. It'll eventually quit flashing the CHI. And then the analog clock is going to catch up with London time. So, there you go. And I thought that's pretty handy. I don't travel much, let alone to different time zones, so I probably won't use this, and I'm sure there's other Casio world time clocks that essentially do the same thing. But I just thought that was pretty neat. And then, okay, my trip to London's over, back in Chicago. Hit that again, London goes back down to the LCD time, and our clock will catch up. It does tick like crazy when it's doing that. I don't know if any of that came across in the mic. So, neat little trick. Also, if you're new into watches like I am, I heavily recommend you go check out Greg Anderson and the Good Timekeeper channel. Great resource. And one of the few people that currently had a video out on this model. Like I said, I would pay more if it had a few more features. It is, at the same time, though, kind of nice to have this cheaper one with the features it has. I mean, if you want a beater analog digital watch, I guess this would be a good option for you. The material, the watch band itself, feels comfortable. It's not like the super cheap, the standard Casio watch bands. It is a step above that. The case body itself, I'm completely gonna contradict myself on what I'm about to say. It feels cheap, but at the same time, it feels fairly rugged. I don't know how else to explain that. It feels like the material that the old school, like 1980s G.I. Joes were made out of. And that plastic is pretty durable. Like, I blew a bunch of those guys up on 4th of July when I was a kid. Yeah, they'd twist in two because the rubber band that held their body together would break. But it's a pretty durable plastic. I kind of got on a weird little tangent there, didn't I? The bezel here, I mean, I don't want to say it feels cheap, because it doesn't, but it doesn't feel quality either. It feels like a $55 watch, essentially, is what it feels like. So, if you want one of these styles that kind of looks like a G-Shock, but you don't want to spend the money on it, yeah, this would be a good option. And also, as far as utilitarian-wise, I think this feels like it would probably handle a little bit of abuse, other than that acrylic crystal on there that's completely unguarded. So, yeah, that's pretty much it on the body I've got for this. I guess I should throw it on. I keep forgetting to do that. I do have a 7¼ inch wrist. I'm sure this is going to drive a bunch of you watch people nuts. I like to wear them fairly loose. I like to have the watch kind of dingle-dangle on my hand. I'm never going to describe it like that ever again. So, 7¼ inch wrist. That's what we got there. I'm actually wearing it a little bit tighter than I would like to. And I'm sorry about the disgusting bruise on the bottom of my hand. Kind of got beat up a little bit at work. Or work beat me up, rather. But yeah. There we go. It's pretty comfortable. It's fairly big. It is definitely a big watch. So you're not going to forget it's on your wrist. But you will forget how big it is and hit, the door as you're walking through the doorway. So, because I'm lazy, I'm not going to bore you guys with the dimensions and numbers. Everyone that's got a Casio has got an F91W. So, kind of give you a size comparison there. This thing looks giant next to the F91W. I mean, it just engulfs that. Quite a bit thicker, but overall, for the size of this watch, I feel like how thin that is actually pretty nice. I mean, it looks, obviously gargantuan next to the 91, but yeah, there's our little size comparison. And now, before I forget, let me show you the backlight and the lume. Give it a quick little charge here, assuming that will do something. There we go. So there's our lume. I've actually seen Casio watches with, I feel like, worse lume than that. I've got some that you can literally just stare there and look at it and watch the lume just fade away. This one not so much, but I did just hit it with a pretty bright weapon light extreme. I forget how many lumens that is. And it is just the hands that has the lume on it. We're kind of getting some of the reflection from the face there, but that's just reflection. No lume on that. So it's just on the hands of these. And then I just realized that one hand is right in our way. I also didn't go through all the features for you guys. I got ahead of myself here. So, we'll go back to London time. Now, it's not going to let me turn the light on while the hands are doing that. And crap, what time is it? Was it even the minute hand or the hour hand that was in the way? Yeah, I did absolutely nothing by doing that. Wonderful. Such a great review this is. So, there's our time through the lume there. The day of the week's a little bit more pronounced when you have it set to that. And it is, what was that, 3 seconds? I think I did adjust the time on this. I think you have the choice between having the backlight on for 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds. I just went to 3 seconds. I figured, it's not going to eat up that much more battery life, having it being on there for a little bit longer. And then once again, Greg Anderson, I think it was even on his review for this watch, pointed out it's tough solar. You don't need to worry about battery life. And I was like, damn, that's a good point. So, yeah, the backlight's not too bad, especially when it's on the day of the week. When it's on the time, of course, that hand's right in the way. It's a little bit smaller text compared to the day of the week. So also kind of keep that in mind. I typically leave these on the day of the week. I am really weird. Like, I will change this. Okay, this is going to be embarrassing. I will change through different watches throughout the day, especially if it's like my day off. I know I've got issues. If you do the same thing, please leave a comment so I don't feel so awkward by admitting that publicly. So I haven't really ran into an issue where I'm like looking at the time. I'm like, oh, I can't see it. Let me use the light. And then I'm stuck with the digital display of the time. I did notice that it was probably like my first or second night after getting this, just kind of playing around with it, using some of the features. And at night, I didn't notice turning on that backlight. Much easier to read the day of the week compared to the time on the LCD display. Once again, not a huge deal for me. It's not my only watch. I could see that kind of being a deal breaker for some people. Or if you can just live with having, the time also displayed in the LCD display and not bug you, and then you can read that when you need to see it in the dark. So, that is my review of this watch. Overall, I do like it. It fits, I feel like, nicely into my collection. It gives me a little bit more diversity, although I do have a few of these kind of military-style watches. But I also like the price point. There's a lot of people that live where multi-band 6 does not reach. I think like the entire southern hemisphere. Yeah, there's like not a single broadcast. So anywhere in Australia, Africa, South America, it's just not going to work for you. There are apps you can use, but like the whole idea of it just doing it automatically without you doing anything is what I really like about it. But obviously, a lot of people it does not apply to. So then putting out a nice little analog digital like this, where they don't have that, so you're not paying for something you're not using, and then kind of going ahead and, using the acrylic face and kind of slightly cheaper body material just to bring down that price to give it a nice price point. I feel like these look really nice. I mean, I really like the design and the display. I probably will end up getting the black one with a positive display eventually. I'm not trying to double up on watches quite yet. I'm trying to get that diversity, and then I'll go for different colors of them and stuff if I want to do that. But I do like this enough where I'm probably going to get at least one more. Again, Casio, I know you're not watching this video, but this design of watch, but a little bit better, we'll pay a little bit more for it. I know I am not the only one. So that concludes the review of the Casio AQ-S820W. Now it is time for me to show you guys what I actually review on YouTube and expose some of my fellow watch collectors maybe to another hobby they might jump down. So we are going to do, instead of a wrist check, we are going to do a lacking check. Today we have out, actually this is kind of like the gem of my collection. This is probably this is the rarest piece in my collection, also the most expensive. Specifically this variant. This is a Spanish Set Me L, specifically with this optic mount back here and this British made SUSAT. It is the LVS variant, and that is what makes it so special in my collection. So you can't simply bring in a gun into the US and convert it to semi-auto. You've got to do a bunch of stuff to it. So a company called Markelmar bought a lot of the demilled parts kits from Spain and have been putting together a lot of these Spanish Set Me Ls. They do have some other variants, which I also have. But this, out of all of them, was their rarest variant, the most limited in number. Basically, because these Spanish SUSAT optics, all on their own, are like a collector's piece. in the United States. They are not very common one single bit. So you're kind of getting two things added into your collection, the gun and the optic, which is very nice. So he was able to get 160 of these Suset optics. Actually, the ones that he got have a slightly different mount. This is the proper mount for the Spanish Set-Me-L. We'll get to that in a bit. Yes, I do have two. But he was only able to get 160, which at that time, and I believe still today, is the single largest importation of Suset optics into the U.S. They are not common at all. Also, we don't have a whole lot of guns that go on. This is most known for going on the British, was the SA-80. The bullpup looks super cool, but it's kind of hated. Actually talked to some British soldiers at an airport recently about that, and we had a good laugh. Anyways, so he's able to get 160 of these Susats, to which he made 100 and, or he was going to make 160 of the LVS. Now, this is not made from an LVS parts kit. It is made from a standard L kit. Essentially, the only thing different from the standard L to the LVS, the LVS did have a thicker profile barrel than the standard L, and it also had this optic rail back here instead of a rear sight. The rear sight would have been on there like that. This is the collapsible stock version there. And he did have all the blueprints for these guns, so he was able to make a 100% accurate reproduction of this rail. Just needed the optics. So these optics are in such high demand, though, he had a lot of collectors calling him, and he actually ended up selling off 30 of the Suset optics. So he only ended up making 130 of these LVS variants. By far the rarest piece in my collection to date, and probably ever, this specific variant of only 130 in the US. Now then, if this has caught your eye and you're really interested, he did find some of the actual proper Muller mounts that the Suset used. This is the mount that the British would sell other countries, and I think only 3 countries, including Spain, ever purchased these from Britain. So this version is actually a little bit more rare, but he was able to get 30 or 60 of those. So he is going to put out another very limited batch of this LVS variant with the proper mount, which is where I got that guy from. So if this is something you're interested in, they might have already been all spoken for. I do not know. But feel free to reach out to Marklemar Firearms. So they do have that option out there possibly for you. The rifle itself, what is it? It's chambered in 5.56, has a 16-inch barrel. It's would have been select fire, so it would have been semi-automatic or full auto. This one, unfortunately, is just semi-automatic. It did kind of use its own style of magazine, but it's close enough to the AR-15 Stenag mag that those do work as well. And Marklemar, one of the things they did to improve on this gun is they made these, to optimize to be using the standard Stenag mag. This gun in general is kind of hated in Spain. It had a lot of quality control issues, but they look cool as hell. It wasn't really the design's fault. So that's one of the things that Marklemar did is they went back, they kind of fixed the issues. It has much better welds. Every single spring has not only been replaced, but also retuned. They really kind of went over this gun. I would have more faith in using this, like in a life or death scenario, than an actual set-me-built L. So, yeah. Another thing you might notice, these typically look cooler. This is the older, rather rare, full-length handguard. Normally they would look like this, with a shorter handguard and a heat shield. I mean, you can't tell me that doesn't look like something out of G.I. Joe. Hey, we were just talking about G.I. Joe earlier. Did not mean to do that. But I did have one. Well, actually, I used to have 2 of these. But this is the, more rare handguard, so I might as well put it on the more rare Set-Me-L. The other handguard I had, I actually sent to Ian McCollum at Forgotten Weapons, and he did do a video on that, which was pretty fun. This is a roller delay action, so it's like the HKG3s or 33s or MP5s. It's a very smooth shooting gun. The L versions actually have the recoil spring in the buttstock, so they are super, super light on recoil. It's got a lot of travel for that bolt to go back. This is probably, honestly, the softest shooting 5.56 rifle you could get. Part of it's probably due to the weight, because it's a chunky monkey. But that roller delay system, specifically how it works in the L, it's really nice. It's a very fun gun to shoot. So I felt that was the best match to go along with the Casio AQ-S820W 3BV. So that is it, guys. That is all I've got for you. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram as well as Rumble. And of course, as always, stay safe and stay shiny.